Okay, well, we know heart disease is a major problem right now. Number one killer, I believe, in the world. Let's talk about what you think the real cause of that is.
I happen to know someone who is a friend, as well as a person who was a colleague in a lawsuit I was involved in. And he's just an all round fantastic guy. He'd be a family doctor, that's what you'd call him, over in North America. He's also done a lot in elderly care, and he's just had a lifelong fascination in heart disease. And I bow to his knowledge. I think he's done an outstanding job with a book called The Clot Thickens. And he could list 250 things. It would be having a certain condition, pollution, smoking, stress, bad diet. There are so many different things, but he's managed to get them into this sort of umbrella, sort of top down of, okay, if you've got anything that's going to damage your arterial system, if you've got anything that's going to impair the repair of that arterial system, because it will try to repair itself, or if you've got anything that's causing clotting, that's your heart disease. And it is all encompassing. We've simplistically got it down to if you've got a high LDL cholesterol or high total cholesterol or something, that's what causes heart disease. I mean, that's wrong. It's not just simplistic, it's wrong. And it's ignoring about 250 other things that are almost certainly more important, if not equally important. I mean, there are definitely things in there that are way more important. And it's just like we just don't look at all of those anymore because this LDL cholesterol story has just gone so nuts.
Malcolm Kendrick's great. He's been on the show twice. I'm a big fan.
Excellent.
Let's break down different lipoproteins, including LDL, and then we can understand the story a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really important one actually, because so many doctors don't know this. And I try to encourage people, you've got to be bold when you have doctors talking about good and bad cholesterol. This is just so wrong. You have to correct them. We just must not let this terminology go unaddressed. So I always sort of hold up a bit of water and say, okay, that's water. We kind of liken that to blood. And if I drop some olive oil in there, it would not mix. It would just sit on the top. So if we imagined having fats in the bloodstream, olive oil in water, they just wouldn't mix. And you would have the situation where something could clog up in a narrower blood vessel, a vein rather than an artery kind of thing. And the body just wouldn't allow that to happen. So our incredible, brilliant body has designed this system called the lipoprotein system. And I think of it as a transporter system around the body. So I call them taxis. So the five main taxis that we need to know something about, and these are in order of size. So if you actually, if we were able to sort of take them outside the body, the first one, the chylomicron, would be about the size of a football, and the end one would be about the size of a pea, and they sort of reduce down. The chylomicron is a lot bigger by a margin. So the chylomicron, when we digest food and it goes through our digestive system, and then it goes out into our lymphatic drainage system. That's where the body will use the chylomicron taxis to package up any fats that we need to take out of our food that need to travel around the body to drop their cargo off at cells, because the cells need those essential fats, fat-soluble nutrients and all the rest of it, and that's the body taking the nutrients out around the body. You've then got something called very low density lipoprotein, which also gets shortened to triglycerides, which is a bit confusing, but kind of the liver is then making VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, and then those very low density lipoproteins release some of their cargo and become IDLs, intermediate density lipoproteins. We don't hear so much about that one because you can't lower it or raise it, or it's not good or bad or anything in their terminology, so they kind of just ignore that one. That one then drops off some cargo and become a LDL, which we will have heard of. And doctors will call that bad cholesterol. It's not even cholesterol, it's a taxi carrying cholesterol. And then the final one that we've got is HDL, which they call good cholesterol. Again, it's not cholesterol, it's a taxi. And all of those taxis, all those five lipoproteins that I've mentioned, they all carry cholesterol, triglycerides, phospholipids, and protein, just in different proportions. So the LDL, yeah, it does have more cholesterol than the other things, and the VLDL has more triglyceride than the other things, but they're all carrying the same cargo. And the concept of density It's just when you get down to the really small one, which is the HDL, it's just more tightly packed because it's small. It's carrying similar things, but it's a smaller little taxi, so they're just more tightly packed. But it's not good and it's not bad. And when people sort of say LDL or HDL and then they don't put that cholesterol on the end, again, you've got to pick them up on it and say, so you're talking about cholesterol now, or are you talking about carriers of cholesterol? And quite often they look at you quite baffled as if, oh, I don't really know. I hadn't really thought about that. It's like, this is so important. Don't let people bamboozle you with technology, because that's how we end up with a theory, hypothesis that just doesn't withstand scrutiny. If you don't really pin them down on, are you talking about LDL? That's the taxi. Or are you talking about LDL cholesterol? That's a component part of the taxi. We're having a completely different conversation here. And when people start talking about small, dense and large fluffy, you're now talking about taxis. Aside from the fact you're talking complete and utter nonsense, you're talking about taxis. So we're no longer having a debate about cholesterol. And that's fine, but just stop demonising cholesterol, because you're now having a different conversation. So it's a very misunderstood area.
Let's go deeper into that small dense versus large fluffy. You quickly went across that. There are people saying it's not LDL that's the problem, it's a small dense. So let's talk more about what that is and how you see it.
It's barking. It's barking. If I can't remember the exact size of an LDL, but you'd be able to look it up quite quickly. And it's measured in like nanoparticles. I think Malcolm likened it to if you're in some massive stadium that you'd go and attend to watch some American football, and it probably carries 80,000 people. An LDL in that kind of environment, might be a speck on a chair kind of thing, just to try to get the scale of what we're talking about. So what they say about the small, dense, large, fluffy, apart from the fact they don't realise they're no longer having a debate about cholesterol, they're actually talking about lipoproteins, and yet they don't make that clear, so that annoys me. There's this inference that if it's small, apart from the fact it's infinitesimally small already, if it's smaller than infinitesimally small, as opposed to slightly larger and fluffier than infinitesimally small, somehow it's going to be able to enter the endothelial wall. And you've just got to challenge that as a concept at the outset. That is what they are inferring. They're inferring that if it's small and dense, it's going to break through into the arterial wall and then it can do some damage. The body is not going to allow that to happen. We would not have LDL receptors on cells if LDL, the taxis remember, could just bust their way into cells or through the through the endothelial wall. We would not need LDL receptors. There is an LDL receptor on the cell, and as the LDL taxi goes by, the LDL receptor will grab it and say, thank you, I need your cargo, and then I'll dump off anything that I'm not going to use. So this idea that you can just, in any circumstance, bust through the endothelial wall is just bonkers. Now, when you can get through into the the endothelial wall, is when there's some damage. But that's got nothing to do with lipoproteins or cholesterol, because you've got damage. So let's say you've got damage because you smoke, or because you have a high sugar diet, or because you've got stress, or you're exposed to pollution, or all the other things in Malcolm's great book. You've got damage to the endothelial wall. Now, the ultimate irony is that the thing that the body needs to go and repair that damage is LDL. It needs the LDL taxi, and LDL receptors around that damage will try to take the LDL taxis to say, okay, I've got some damage here. I need the lipids that you've got in your taxi to repair that damage. I need cholesterol, I need protein, I need triglycerides, I need phospholipids. I need that stuff. Send that over to me now. So the LDL is actually going to the scene of the damage. Now, if you've got a damaged endothelial wall, yeah, all bets are off. Plaque can break off, stuff can get in, you can get into a difficult situation. Your body is not working in the way that it should be working. But there is no way on earth that just because something is smaller than infinitesimally small, all other things being okay, some kind of LDL taxi can just bust its way through into your endothelial wall. So that's why I don't like the small, dense, large, fluffy stuff that goes on. And it goes on in our world as much as the LDL cholesterol heart hypothesis people's world as well. So it's kind of like the 6 graphs, 7 countries, another one we need to clear up.
Now that we're deep into this, hashing it out, let's bring in oxidized LDL. This is another one you hear when LDL becomes problematic.
Again, you're talking about a taxi. You're not talking about cholesterol, so that's fine. But, people will sort of say, oh, one of the reasons we need to take statins is oxidized LDL or whatever. It's like you're not talking about cholesterol anymore. You're talking about taxis. And if you're talking about oxidation, that's the problem. Not the LDL. The LDL taxi, the lipoprotein system, the way your body is designed is all still in good order. Something is causing oxidation. And it's not only causing oxidation in one particular taxi, in one system in the body, which is called the lipoprotein system. It's going to be causing oxidation all over the place. So what is causing your oxidation? Are you consuming a high intake of seed oils? Are you cooking a lot with seed oils and actually inhaling all of those mutations as you go along? Are you exposed to pollution? Have you got environmental issues? Is your diet just not very good? We're back to all the things that actually are going to cause heart disease. They're also going to cause things like oxidation, inflammation, and general dysregulation within the body. So don't blame the LDL taxi for the other things that were going on. It's just going to be affected like any other part of the body is going to be.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch the full episode. I'll see you over there.
The demonization of fat, the demonization of saturated fat, the demonization of cholesterol, all these things that we got wrong have just then been the bedrock of everything else that's gone wrong since. Fiber is literally many sugars of the indigestible kind.